everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun video we're going to be making a set of custom bookends, and it's going to be really different content from me because I'm not going to be using any predetermined plans. What I'm going to be using is an idea that's in my head. I already have kind of a visual in my mind of how I want them to look. But last year in 2023, summer 23 as a matter of fact, my mom got me the original Jaws book, and sadly I had quit reading for over a decade, and after she got me that book I thought I had to read it because I love the movie so much, and after reading that book quickly it reignited my love for reading books. So I went to my shelves and started picking up my Stephen King books, and after reading The Eyes of the Dragon I knew I had to jump back into my favorite, at the time of this video's recording and posting, my favorite book series by him, and that is the massive and epic Dark Tower series. So this is what we're going to be making a set of custom bookends in today's video for, and I'm going to try to theme it to the series to the best of my abilities. Now I have the first and last book in the series. Originally it was 7 books, and then later on, a few years after the last volume was released, Stephen King released an additional book. The 8th book, Went Through the Keyhole, that is kind of theoretically in the timeline portion placed in the middle of the series, but he just wrote it because he felt the need to write more Dark Tower stuff, and I was very happy for that. So that was actually the last time I had read the series, in 2012 when Went Through the Keyhole came out. So now a lot of time has passed and I've grown and matured since then, hopefully, and I got to appreciate the books with a new set of eyes as I was reading them, and a lot of stuff that I didn't understand back then I fully understand now, if that makes any sense. But I figured bringing books 1 and book 7 out here in the workshop would help give me my proper measurements to how to make the bookends, and I'll talk a little bit more about these. But I milled down an old piece of cedar material that was given to me, and I felt cedar would be the proper material to use because in the books where the Dark Tower stands at the end of the journey is surrounded by a field of roses, and I felt that when the clear coat was added to this it would look like a red rose. So that's just my interpretation. We're going to have to mill this down further, and basically all I'm going to be making is 2 L-shaped brackets for the books to stand against on a shelf. And I've went to the laser and I quickly designed this in the shape of a keyhole. Doors and keyholes play a major factor in the Dark Tower series, and you'll just have to see by reading through the pages yourselves if you want to see what I'm talking about. But what I've used here is a vector I found online. This is the Ka logo, and Ka, without overcomplicating it, just basically means destiny, like your destiny for what you were meant to do. So basically they'll say within the course of the books, if it's your Ka, it'll happen, or if Ka wills it, it will happen, you know. So basically that is what that means, and it's a major factor throughout the course of all 8 books. I've got another piece of material here because we're going to have to make another one of these over on the laser. But basically what these are going to do is kind of just sit here on each end. Again, I'm not trying to overcomplicate this. And then I picked up a piece of kitchen drawer or shelf liner that's kind of rubbery. It's actually what I sand scroll saw woodworking projects on, but it's got a nice rubber texture, and I'm going to attach this to the bottom of the bookends once we get them made so they will grip the shelf that we set them on to display the books. And since everything is pretty much ready, what I've got to do is make another one of these. So let me take the piece of material over to the laser and we'll get that going, and then we'll take some measurements of the books to mill down the cedar. Let's get started. And over here at the laser we will put a piece of 1/2 inch basswood into the laser bed, and I'll hold it in place with a couple magnets, and we will frame out our second Ka logo we need to make. And then I will zip up the enclosure and hit start, and then the laser engraver will begin making the piece. You can see it engraving the Ka emblem right here. And again, a laser is never a tool you leave unattended, so I wanted to get this part going before we stepped over to the table saw to finish milling down the cedar material. And again, this piece was given to me by a friend, and it was very rough cut, and I planed it down. And I'm not really taking a lot of measurements here. I'm just eyeballing a lot of stuff, and I'm really not trying to reinvent the wheel here. I'm just trying to make some neat bookend stands to represent a book series by Stephen King that I really love reading and going back to and revisiting. So I felt this would be appropriate to make a couple bookends here. And again, they're going to be basic L shapes. And after I get them cut, we can go over to the workbench. And I'll take an older scroll saw project, the bowl you see over there, to use the diameter to make a curve at the top. And we'll cut a curve out of all 4 pieces just to give it a nice visual and take away those rough square edges. And I'll retrace that curve on the remaining 3 and get them cut out. If you guys like what you're seeing, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to my channel and also follow me across all my social medias under the Artisan Pirate name. I'd really appreciate the support. But once all 4 of the curves are cut here, not all of the scroll saw work will be done. We will need to get our Ka logo that the laser is now done making. It took around 20 minutes for the laser to do this. We can come back and trace on the base of the bookends the slot that I will have to cut to accept the emblem we just made. And I'm doing this very lightly on the cedar material. Once again, eyeballing everything. But then I will drill 2 pilot holes with my Seiko scroller's drill. And then we can go back over to the scroll saw for the final bit of scrolling. I am so happy and thankful that I once again picked up reading books. Reading is a great way to escape after a long and busy day. Of course, I always read before going to bed, at least 20 to 30 pages, and it's just a great way to wind down at the end of a day. But now it's time for lots and lots of sanding with Klingspor Woodworking Shop sandpaper and the vibrating sander here. And I am just softening over all of those rough corners. And once I'm satisfied with everything, it'll be time to glue everything together. And I'll go with medium grade CA glue and activator. And I was going to use wood glue here, but gluing in grain can be tricky, so I just went with the CA glue here. And after it's set up and cured for around 5 minutes, it was time to come back and measure and cut the kitchen drawer liner. And this is the same material that I sand scroll saw woodworking projects on. It grips the pieces nice to allow me to sand everything smoothly. And I will apply both of these pieces I cut here with spray adhesive. And I don't really like using spray adhesive because it gets everywhere, but it was the appropriate way to attach these. But after they dry around 5 minutes themselves, and I'm sure that they are grabbing the material good, I will flip them over and glue in the 2 Ka emblems in the shape of keyholes here and allow them to dry again for around 5 minutes for the glue to cure. And then I gave them several coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss for a finish. And I'm really happy with how the grain popped with the cedar material and got really dark. And plus it gave the material a nice glossy appearance. But after that dried, it was time to properly display the epic Dark Tower book series by Stephen King. Very happy with how this came out, and I thank you all for watching. And here we have the completed custom Dark Tower Stephen King inspired bookends made completely today out in the workshop, and they finished up amazingly well. The Rust-Oleum clear gloss we added at the end really made the textures and grains in that cedar material pop, and I'm really happy with how these came out. It took around 2.5 to 3 hours this morning out in the workshop to make these bookends to represent an amazing book series that I love so much. And as you've seen in the closing stages of the time-lapse portion, these bookends comfortably hold the 8 volumes that make up the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. Really, really cool. And very rarely does something come out in reality how I have pictured it in my mind's eye, but these came out exactly how I had pictured them when I was thinking about making them. And I'll hold one of these up to talk about as we close the video. The keyhole representation that we cut a slot in over on the scroll saw was made over on the laser, as you guys seen, and it took the laser around 25 minutes to make this from start to finish. The Kai logo that I dropped into the light burn to start the design process is easily found on an online image search if you guys have access to lasers and want to make something with that logo. Once again, it represents basically destiny within the course of the books, and it's just a great little visual here. I've actually made this a vinyl decal and put it on the gas cap of the vehicle, you know, just to show my love for the series. But the cedar once again represents the field of roses that the Dark Tower stands in once you get to it in the end of book 7. And again, I'm just really happy with how these came out. And if you've ever read one Stephen King book in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just a one-line sentence, it is referenced in one of the 8 volumes here. So just please keep that in mind, how massive and expansive the world is. And I know a lot of Stephen King fans will read all of his books just to see what hints are tied into the Dark Tower series. I can safely say that around 80 to 85% of all of Stephen King's works are in some way, shape, or form referenced in the book series behind me, and I can't wait to get a shelf cleaned off to get these properly displayed. Now, as for video purposes, these bookends are completely done, but the reason I made the bases here by the keyholes so big was not only to allow that material to grip a surface to where they will stay in place, but I also want to add some further decorations to it because there's so much that I could add here that would represent the Dark Tower books behind me. I would love to find some proper colored marbles to glue around here to make up the Wizard's Rainbow that plays a major factor in book 4. I would like to maybe find some roses to glue maybe down here in the corners to break up those sharp edges, because again, the Dark Tower stands in a field of roses, and a rose in New York plays a major factor throughout the course of the series. And also, I would like to maybe find a 3D print file of a raven, a bird's skull, to glue down here as well, because that's also featured in book 4 of the series. And the reason these are in the shape of a keyhole is because doors and keyholes play a major factor throughout all of the books, and a major factor in book 2. And while I was over at the scroll saw, my imagination started running again, and I thought about actually sketching out a keyhole to actually cut out here to open to where you could partially see the covers of the books when they were butted up against this. But again, just fairly simple construction for today's video. Is a little bit different style content for me, but I hope you guys like watching me make the videos. And if you are curious about the Dark Tower series and want to hear me talk about it from my mind's eye and how I take it in, everyone that reads them is going to take away something different from a book series. That's what I love about reading. But if you guys would like to see me do maybe a 10 or 12 minute video where I talk about and basically review the books and why I love them, and hopefully inspire you guys to go out and read them, please let me know, and I'd be happy to come out here with the books once again and film that for you guys and just briefly talk about it without hopefully spoiling a lot of stuff, because it is a great and epic series from start to finish. And as the weather is starting to cool off, what better way than to grab an amazing book and cuddle up and get lost in its pages. So really neat. I hope you guys enjoyed the video from start to finish. Again, a little bit different content from me, but I feel like that's the evolution of a YouTube channel, to try new things and make new things, especially with what I do over here on the platform. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you'll click that subscribe button and follow me across all my social medias under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well as all my social medias will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one, and remember guys, if I can make it or do it, so can you. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care, and I'll see you guys real soon.